Well, a tremendous amount of credit to Michigan. They're a very, very good basketball team who played extremely well today. You run into so many problems with trying to defend Michigan, and John does a great job of spacing the floor, and they have so many shooters. And it gets hard to take everything away from them. And I thought the first half we were very good at defending the three-point line, trying to keep them in front of us. We did a great job on Walton the first half. He only has 7. But again, the second half was you go 11 of 15 from the 3. That's hard to do in a gym by yourself. And they hit some hard shots. Give them credit. I'm very, very proud of these young men up here. This group has been through a lot this year. And when you talk about the death of a teammate, when you talk about a trip to Maui and going 10-2 in the non-league and starting 0-6, and then a great run to turn it around, I think it speaks volumes of the character of our locker room. I couldn't be prouder of a group of guys. It's never great to have a season end. Thought we could have made some noise in this thing. Today we just weren't good enough, and give a lot of credit to Michigan.
Okay, we'll take questions for Coach or the players. Raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you right here.
Barry Trammell with the Oklahoman. Jawun and Phil, it seemed like the game sort of got out of your control. About 4 or 5 minutes left. Everybody scoring every possession. Then you guys had 3 or 4 possessions where you didn't score. Do you remember that stretch, and what do you think went wrong during those possessions?
Jawun?
I just felt like, we kind of got confused at times, but also we were just trying to figure out who we wanted to score the ball. So that's what happened.
Phil?
We just, had a few lapses on defense, and we play a good team like Michigan. You can't do that. And then when you get into a scoring match and you don't score, then obviously they're going to make a little run.
Questions, please? Right here in the back.
Sam Mays with the franchise in Oklahoma City. Coach, how difficult is it to keep your team motivated when the other team is just draining threes that are somewhat ridiculous at times?
It's what we do. We do the same thing. We see it every day in practice. And we weren't the number 1 offensive team in the country from an efficiency standpoint. It's one of those deals. I mean, we shot 55% in the NCAA Tournament and just lost in the first round. The game is evolving into that. This goes against basically every stereotype you know, and it's one I've got to grasp. Out-rebound an opponent 40-21 and lose. And the game's changing. The three-point line is changing that way, and we saw teams in our league that did the same thing. I think it's a tribute to what we try to do. We're everyday guys who try to play every play, and no matter what the consequences, and we could have very easily folded. But as long as there's officials on the court, time on the clock, and they're keeping score, we're going to keep fighting. And this team I'm proud of. We're resilient, and again, these 2 seniors and deserve a lot of the credit for that.
Right here.
Yeah, for Leyton, both teams got off to a sort of a slow start. It wasn't a wild game early. What triggered to get both teams' offenses really going?
Question for Leyton.
I just felt like defensively, when you get stops, get a couple stops in a row, it kind of gets your offense going. I mean, especially with us. I mean, we're really well in the first 7 seconds of the shot clock. So I mean, once we get a stop and a defensive rebound and let Jawun do his thing, I mean, that's kind of been our motto of the year. So I mean, I just feel like we got a couple stops in a row, get 3 stops in a row, then I mean, you kind of start feeling on offense because once you see the ball go in, I mean, you start getting your rhythm.
Questions, please. Right here.
Brad, you went to a zone for a few plays and you didn't stay with it. You did a lot of switch. It looked like you switched every screen most of the game. Was that what you were going to do no matter what? Did you feel like that worked well, or how did you feel about that defensive question?
Question for Coach.
In the Big Ten tournament, Derek Walton took 51 shots that were not breakaway steal layups. 45 of them were jump shots. And so switching was going to, you know, they were the third percentile in the country in post-ups. So we weren't overly concerned with that. It was a matter of trying to keep them to shoot, stop them from shooting and in the paint and step in threes. We wanted to force them to dribble if they wanted to go at Mitch. So be it, and or Leyton, and then you know, to their credit, they made some shots. And you're if you get into a rotation game with them in terms of hedging ball screens or doing that, you're going to lose because they pass it so well, they play so well together, and I felt pretty good about it. And we worked on it a great deal, and for the most part, the only thing that hurt us in the first half was Wilson had 6 offensive rebounds or 3 offensive rebounds. But like I said, there's a little give and take when you play Michigan.
Questions, please? Sure.
Jawun, Jeff had a really strong game in terms of percentage. I think he was 6 of 8 shooting, but he didn't get a lot of shots. Was Michigan doing anything to take him away from getting shots, or why so few shots for Jeffrey?
Was that for Jawun?
For Jawun.
Okay, thank you.
I feel like they played Jeff kind of good in a way, but also just when that kind of night for him, I guess. I can't tell you why he ain't having as many shots as he should, but it was just one of them nights.
Questions? Yeah.
Phil, it looked like they were committed to not letting you shoot, but you started putting the ball on the floor, found a couple of threes off the dribble, but also in the paint you took some shots. Was it a decision that, hey, you just have to find some shots out of your normal comfort zone?
Question for Phil.
Just trying to make a couple plays, just kind of taking what the defense gave me and just seeing how tight they were playing me and kind of trying to use it to my advantage to attack them.
Any more questions for Coach of the athletes? Sure.
For Brad, was this kind of game the way it became where you just almost had to score every possession? I mean, it looked like a Big 12 football game out there where if you punt, you might lose. If you miss today, you might lose because everybody's scoring so much.
It's pretty much what I expected. You had, I think they're 8th in the country in offensive efficiency, or 9th, and are somewhere right in there, and we're first. And I like when we play with tempo. It suits this team. You know, Phil doesn't get a ton of looks because everybody fears him and spaces, and that creates opportunities for you know, for those other guys. Leyton played within you know, with a couple fouls early, but yeah, you know, it's we score a lot of ways, and tempo was good for us. And you know, you sit there and you look, and you know, I talked about the rebounding difference, and you talk about 50 points in the paint and you lose. The game's changing, and to their credit, when you make threes, you're got a great chance to win.